So let's talk about critical race theory, teachers, the new laws. We have an article from SF Gate entitled New Critical Race Theory Laws Have Teachers Scared, Confused, and Self-Censoring. Now, I've been in the past critical of even though I'm on the conservative side as far as I think this critical race theory is hot garbage and should not be taught in schools. And obviously, you can teach the real history, but the way the left interprets history and puts such an emphasis on only blaming one set of people and just the conclusions they draw, clearly, it's not objective history. Well, nothing can be objective history. Somebody way smarter than me made this analogy. Let's say you have like a school in Germany and they started teaching nothing but the bad things the Jewish people did. And people are like, well, wait a minute. Why are you only concentrating on Jewish people? Like, why only the crimes of the Jews and this and that? Like, and then their retort would be, what's wrong with it? We're only teaching history. So like everything that can be teaching, it could be factual, but you only focus on one set of like only one group of people are the bad guys in history, and that's your throughout narrative, then clearly it's like a super biased documentary. It's like indoctrination. Clearly, like let's say if they were going to talk about slavery, they're not going to talk about slavery around the world, that every single country had slavery or nation every single time or whatever, and then the British started to actually got so wealthy as to emancipate the slaves. No. They're not gonna mention that. It's extremely handpicked, biased teaching of history. Now, while I'm against that, I'm against teaching that. Well, ideally you'd have school choice, so parents and students can actually go to the school. Let's say you have like a variety of schools. You have one school that actually teaches all this stuff. You say the woke school or whatever. Then you have another school that actually focuses on more like on STEM, math and physics, and another school that focuses more on arts. So I'm all about choice. I'm not gonna pretend that I know what's the right solution to everybody, right? Whatever makes people happy. But this wholesale indoctrination of kids into one way of thinking about things, it's really evil. It's really nasty. But I was on the fence about whether conservatives should pass laws against teaching critical race theory, because something in my libertarian brain has a huge aversion to passing any kind of laws. Because once you pass laws against it, they're kind of ham-fisted and they don't really stop the ideas because the damage already has been done. Like, for example, the new mayor of New York, he's trying to because of all these recent teenagers killing each other over like rap lyrics or drill music. He's gonna try to pass laws about try to outlaw drill music. It's like, no, motherfucker, the damage has already been done. These kids are just like running wild in the street with guns, unsupervised, single, don't have a father at home. Like, it's already fucked up. You can't blame the drill music. And just with the CRT bullshit, the teachers are already indoctrinated, steeped in CRT. They're true believers. They're already in this cult. So while you can pass laws that they can't teach it, I think mostly they're just going to get around it by just teaching it anyway, but just under different guise. But let me read this article. I haven't read it, but it should be interesting. What does SF say? I'm sure they're like, this is a super progressive newspaper website. What would they say? What's their take on the laws that the conservatives issued? A Utah student group was called Black and Proud. The principal had it renamed. A New Hampshire history teacher. I mean, would you have white and proud groups? Or how about we just, like when I went to high school in the 90s or grade school, it's like we didn't focus on race. Like race was like not a thing that you focused on. Everybody was equal. But the whole society has made, well, the left taking over society has made people so conscious about race and so race focused. It's so fucked up. The principal had a name. New Hampshire history teacher used to discuss current events in a unit about race and economics. Oh boy. No more. A Florida school official canceled lecture for a teacher on history of civil rights movement while they consider whether it would violate the rules. Well, see, I'm sure they can teach about the civil rights movement. But the problem is they put such a left spin on history that people revolted. If they were carefully, very even-handedly, non-biasedly trying to talk about the civil rights and whatever. It's like the whole, oh God, it's like the whole thing with gaslighting. It's like, oh, you're against CRT? You don't want to teach that slavery is bad? Like, well, we can't teach that? It's like, well, no, it's not about that. Or how about that? What a straw man. In 13 states, new laws or directives govern how race can be taught in schools. And, well, first of all, I mean, why is SF Gate so concerned about it? These are Republican states, red states, but it's very concerning. And that's part of the reason why they must have a public school system. The left advocates for, even though I think deep down inside they know that what's wrong with school choice? They're purporting to be that they're for poor people. Well, shit, poor people want to choose a school where they go. Maybe the poor people don't like the fucking bullshit government school that they were assigned by location. Maybe they want to commute a little further and upgrade their education to a different school. But this is why I believe that the left must take over education. Because at the end of the day, they have to indoctrinate people, or they don't view it that way. I'm translating it this way, but they think that proper citizens must be formed through their education. And well, they don't want to be like these hillbilly rubes. They have to be molded, and how molded to being proper citizens. We got to teach them properly about socialism, properly about race, and the right way to think about race. It's so nasty and evil. The result, teachers and principals say the climate of fear around how to comply with rules they often do not understand. New measures typically bar teachers from suggesting the United States is a racist country, from elevating one race, gender over another, or implying... What's wrong with that? You're elevating what? New measures typically bar teachers from suggesting the United States is a racist country. Well, objectively, it's not. It's not a racist country. It's a racist country if you've never been to any other country in the world. The United States is probably one of the leastest racist country in the world. This is exactly what I'm talking about. They are outraged. They can't teach kids that the United States is a racist country. Like, what? That's a political opinion. I mean, you can think that if you want. That's fine. You're free to do so. But why do you have to indoctrinate kids to think that? Why? So many of these kids can't even read and write at grade level. Do basic math at grade level. Not to mention any useful job skills, as like anything from even life skills, like how to open up a credit card and keep a good credit, how to apply for jobs, how to like anything that's useful, that's out the window. How to save money, invest money, That's really important. No, no, no. What's really important is to teach the kids that we live in a racist country, and you got to vote for the Democratic Party to fix it. From elevating one race, gender, or another, or implying that one race is superior. So far, they have not triggered the wholesale rewrites of curriculum, and a few educators have faced precaution or punishment. Some teachers say that there's no changes at all, but many teachers nonetheless describe a chilling effect. They say now an err on the side of caution, fear that the student or parent might complain, resulting in a public battle, or even, in extreme cases, that they might lose their job. New Hampshire, Oklahoma, which allow anyone unhappy with the teacher to complain to the state, there's an extra layer of fear. Teachers found out out of compliance can lose their teaching licenses. I don't know. This may be. Do you know what this kind of really reminds me of a little bit? Like, this might be a bad example. Who knows? What if this is like the polar opposite of the cops? Because in this Black Lives Matter climate, anything that the cops will do to like arrest a black guy or anything kind of mishandling or whatever, everybody's got the camera out. So the cops are so scared to deal with them or to do anything wrong. And then this climate of fear. Well, is it the same thing that the teachers are really now in these states are afraid of like saying anything about race? I mean, I don't see the issue. Like, there are so many important topics that one can cover. You don't think that these students are going to be steeped in race politics and just all sorts of racial issues anyway? Why can't you just treat everybody as equally and let the parents talk about race? Why do they need to have a say here? There's other topics that they can cover. The law is really vague. Jen Given, a 10th grade history teacher at Hollis Brook High School in Hollis, the New Hampshire law bars teaching that people of one age, sex, or gender identity, sexual orientation, race, creed, color, marital status, familial status, mental or physical disability, religion, national origin are inherently superior or inferior people over another. But given, she said, she's not clear on the definition of inherently superior or inferior. We asked for clarification from the state, but the union from school lawyers, the university response, there's no one's really sure. She led us to be exceptionally cautious because we don't want to risk our livelihoods where we're not sure what the rules are. Supporters say that these laws are needed to pare back offensive lessons about race in America, including nation that white people today, even children, bear responsibility for the sins of the past, and those that emphasize American racism over underlying and uplifting elements of U.S. history. Some officials made it clear that they're on the lookout for transgressions. In a speech last year, Richard Corcoran, the Florida Education Commissioner, said it was important to police teachers to make sure they are not indoctrinating students with liberal agenda. I've censored or fired or terminated numerous of teachers, he said. There was an entire classroom memorialized to Black Lives Matter, and we made sure it was terminated. Classroom memorialized, what does that mean? I mean, would they teach the same thing on the right? Would they have in the time classroom on the Tea Party? Opponents say teachers need the freedom to teach all of American history, and the goods and the bad, and the conversations about the unequal effects of slavery, systemic racism, white privilege are an important tool for helping students to analyze current events and controversies. Yeah, from the left's perspective. The only indoctrination that I remember my history teacher saying that, it was kind of funny. I think about it to this day. That history teacher in my school, even though race was not a big part of my education, thank God, she did say something about that the only reason why the U.S. dropped the atomic bomb on the Japanese because they were not white. I remember that. But that's as far as I went, but I got lucky. In recent years, many school districts have worked to examine structural racism in their system, conducting equality audits and looking at discipline and achievement data through the lens of race. Many have added curriculum, books, and lessons about racism and white privilege. Well, this whole fucking white privilege thing, that's a lefty concept. That's not a real thing. A lot of people don't see it that way. I mean, it's definitely real to the left. As if they're like being white, that's the only privilege that a person can have. A person can't have height privilege. A person can't have looks privilege, good speech privilege. I mean, there's a gazillion white privileges. Why are you focusing on just your skin color privilege? Because that's the most important thing. To the left, of course, because the race is like crack to them. They can't put the pipe down. In many places, those efforts accelerated following the murder of George Floyd in May 2020. The backlash followed. A study published by UCLA Institute for Democracy Education Access surveyed 275 teachers who belong to organizations that address equality, tolerance, and found the majority reported efforts to block teaching on this issues of race. Some teachers also said their districts were pulling away from previously announced equity efforts. This term equity is so scary. I mean, technically, like, oh yeah, everybody equity. It's like, what do they mean? They have to. The government or the state has to intervene in every single part of the life to make everybody equal. I mean, what an evil, scary-ass term. Sounds innocuous, though. Equity, equality. We want equity, right? Laws limiting the teaching of race, gender-related questions now exist in Arkansas, Ohio, Idaho, Iowa, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. Executive actions such as rules approved by the State Board of Education in place of Alabama, Florida, Utah, Virginia, Georgia. State Board of Education approved a resolution along these lines, but it was never confined to those rules. In Montana, the Attorney General issued an opinion on the issue. In Arizona, a law that imposed limits on teaching race was invalidated by a state Supreme Court. Outside pressure is likely to persist. At least 27 states are considering legislation this year that would limit how race and some other cases gender could be taught in schools. What is there to teach about gender? God damn it. Other than just like, are you in a goddamn biology class? Are you teaching like the biological gender, real gender, or are you teaching like lefty gender? That you have like 37 genders, you can be a helicopter. Is that what you're teaching? Republicans see this issue as a winning one in their campaign across the country against a basket of race-related topics they label as critical race theory. Well, on one hand, the left is so for democracy because universal healthcare polls really well. Oh, like 80% people support it. Never mind that. When they find out that their taxes go up, they don't support it, but they live and die by what the democracy, what the majority of opinion is. Well, then why don't you respect democracy in this case? Republicans see this as a winning issue because, hey, galvanizes, like, parents don't want this for the majority of part. A lot of parents are repulsed by it. So why don't the Democrats or the left see like, oh, democracy now. Democracy told us they don't want it. Well, no, of course not. Then now they're going to throw democracy out the window. They don't care what the plebs think now. Interviews with teachers and principals across the country reveal that educators are changing the way they teach about race in response to the new laws, sometimes in subtle ways. New Hampshire said she used to teach students about racial disparities in economics as part of trying relative of lack of black wealth to Jim Crow laws and discriminating mortgage policies known as redlining. Not anymore. Well, none of this shit is proven, goddammit. It's not. This is just a lefty agenda. The redlining or whatever. There's not a one-to-one ratio here. There's a lot of people from all sorts of ethnicities in America that are really, really wealthy and much richer than white people. And it has nothing to do with their skin color. We started avoiding modern panels in order to avoid any question coming up if there were. By including this information, we were somehow suggesting one group is better than another. An hour north, Hopkins High School English teacher Kate LeClaire said that they used to talk about the idea of privilege, including white privilege, during a unit on race. This year, she plans to avoid the mention of that. Bravo, good. She's also not going to have her students take implicit bias tests from Harvard or read articles critiquing it as she's in the past. I'm just more aware of buzz and trigger words. In August, about a month, Oklahoma's new law passed. Administrators at Edmond, Oklahoma, sent a slide presentation to staff saying that teachers should avoid using the terms diversity and white privilege. I like that, yes. During classroom discussions, according to a screenshot obtained by the Washington Post. Reagan Killicky, who teaches English at Edmond Memorial High School, was so disturbed that she contacted ACLU in Oklahoma and now a plaintiff in the suit challenging the law. I was watching what was happening around me. Ethically, I couldn't remain silent. Who's white and has taught for 18 years. This year, she said, we have taught differently. We had to edit myself in a way that I've never had to think about in my entire career. Just why don't you stay away from these topics? Why is it a must? You have to talk about white privilege. Like this is more important than anything in the world. More important than reading and writing, basic math. Edmond Public School spokesman Susan Perkins said in an email statement that the slide presentation was preliminary in nature. The district latter advised new slides that clarified teachers that diversity could be discussed in the classroom. And that Utah West Jordan Male School outside of Salt Lake City principal Ray Garrison decided not to offer a popular course called American Institutions this year, partly because one unit discusses current events, including Black Lives Matter movement. She said that the teacher did not feel comfortable teaching the class until they are certain that their material does not violate the new law. They've made some changes and plan to offer the courses again in the fall, she said, but she leaves it open to the possibility she'll again put the course or modify it further. If we're going to have people having an issue, it would be with this class. While the teacher awaits guidance from the state, no decision has been made yet about whether to keep BLM material. The BLM material, like official material makes by the Black Lives Matter. I mean, in kind of a way, I don't like it would be in a way hilarious that is like they would try to indoctrinate kids into this stuff anyway, and it would totally backfire because just kids just rebel against like what parents and teachers and authorities say anyway. So it'd just be more of like a awakening a red pill movement that they went to a government's high school and been propagandized, and that would be like extra based or something. The Pulitzer Center, which describes the curriculum, is based on the 1619 project. Why are you basing shit on the 1619 project? That's just not historical, one person's opinion. American history, it's like American history is nothing but slavery, right? I bet that why don't they base a class and curriculum on freedom and capitalism and how America got rich? Of course they're not going to do that. Because it's so politically one-sided and lopsided. This is just indoctrination. Like, why can't you talk about what made America great? You can mention history, you can mention slavery, but it's the emphasis, right? That's the problem. She said one of the 42 participating school districts dropped out of a training program due to state legislation. Danielle Jemaya, manager of K-12 partnership, said quite a few teams had to respond to some pushback to work, but mostly were able to address those parent and community concerns. She said a better test may come with the second cohort of teachers later this year. In other challenges, parents have sought to remove books from reading lists, or teachers have done it preemptively. Complaining under a new Tennessee law that's been filed against the Civil Rights Heroes module of a second grade reading curriculum, specifically 4 books detailing the life stories of Martin Luther King, Ruby Bridges, and Saya Mendez. Changed that the books betray a narrow and slanted obsession on historical mistakes that makes children hate their country, each other, and or themselves. Yeah, maybe that's correct. The complaint came from Williamson County chapter of Moms for Liberty, a national advocacy group that pushes for greater parental control over education. The chair of the group, Robin Steeman, said that the email that their Moms for Liberty chapter is genuinely concerned about the graphic, violent, and racially divisive content in the curriculum, saying this content is not appropriate for second grade. She said in another chapter, members first grew concerned that mother charged that her biracial child was negatively impacted by the teaching. A spokeswoman for the William County School District said that this week that the district was reviewing challenges to 30 texts, including these titles. So it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. This is the left really, you can tell that just the length of this article, everything on SF Gate is like a few pages. There's a lot here. They really care about this, documenting every single minor incident. So in conclusion here, let's read the end. White, who said she's the only African-American teacher in the majority white Walker Valley High School, said her never thought opinions, but now careful to delineate the source of everything. This is information that I gained from C-SPAN, this information that you can look up at his website. She hesitates to answer questions about slavery and the Jim Crow era in America. Miss White, what do you think about why people would treat each other that way? Well, the correct answer is white people are biologically more evil than everybody else. And they need to repent. That's the correct answer, but unfortunately, she can't give it. How would you have handled it if you were enslaved? How would you have handled it if you lived under Jim Crow? Why don't they ask her, what if her family was a slave master? What if she was born in the Nazi party? Would she be a Nazi, or would she be like the 2 or 3% of the people that actually resisted? If she asked about critical race theory, she now replies, I don't have a thought on that. Before the law, White said she would try to draw her students out, pressing them to consider the causes of racism, urging them the the causes of racism is clearly whiteness, your skin color, the white skin color, and the genetic of white people. That's the cause of racism, and no other race can be racist. Obviously, that's so important that students don't understand this. I mean, they can't get this critical information because of these new laws. Urging them to inspect and understand their own feelings about the darkest parts of American history. She would have made it clear all student opinions are valid. Oh, really? Yeah. And emphasize they need to think critically and empathetically about history. Now I shy away, she said. We can't talk about that. Oh, we shouldn't. Something tells me this is complete bullshit. She talks about it anyway. She can't fucking help it. Of course, SF Gate is going to paint this in the most softest light possible. Like, oh, Miss White, what is slavery? What is that? Does slavery happen in America? No, little Jimmy, I can't talk. I can't say it. There's these laws. Yeah, no. I mean, obviously, the left's critical race theory shit was way out of line. It was so radical, and parents stood up to it, and well, now, yeah, if they were carefully balanced and very, very cautiously and judiciously talking about race, then in a balanced way, then I'm sure none of this was a problem. But they went so left, they upset people, and now Republican politicians are finding this as a winning topic, and now they're going to run for it, and now the left is upset, but what can you do?